Alright, so here I am working on a RadioShack Color Computer 2 that I picked up off of eBay about a year ago. And it was a really good deal. It was a Model 2 in really good condition case-wise. As you can tell, it is quite yellowed. And I'm going to try and use a little bit of Windex just to see if there's anything I can get off. This case is clearly going to need a retro brighting. When I took it out of the box, it was pretty evident that this computer was in a smoke environment. So someone's home where they were pretty heavy smoking. The cigarette smell was pretty prominent. And I realized that the Windex is not going to do any retro brighting, but I wanted to get off any dirt that might have been on the computer. And but when you look at the case, when you look at the keyboard, all the keys have good travel. There was no damage. There's nothing broken. So whoever used it definitely took care of it. So this computer will go through a retro brighting. The case will go through a retro brighting at a later point. All I really wanted to do was get it clean, look at it a little bit. I do open it up briefly to see there is a video mod in there. I don't know anything about it at this point. I didn't really take any good pictures of the inside. You can see that there is something coming off of the computer. It has been out since. It also came with a cover, came with a slip cover, and that cover is clearly yellowed, and it's in good shape too. It's not cut or anything, but I'm gonna have to figure out how to clean it appropriately. Now, since I've had it for this past year, the smoke smell has gone away as it's acclimated to my home, and we don't smoke in this house. You can see over to the right of me, it also came with a printer cartridge. The keyboard travel, as you can see, it seems to be pretty good. I didn't really feel any broken stems or any bad key presses. I did plug it into a composite monitor, and I do get a signal. I'm not getting color signal, but that could be just because of the video cable that I'm using. At the time, I didn't really have. And you can see there's the composite cable. So we'll have to look at that later. There is, like I said, a daughter board on the computer, on the main board itself. These are the two controllers that it came with. These are those nicer Tandy controllers. I guess they have the springs underneath them, and they were in really good shape as well. Similarly, they had a little bit of coloring and smell to them, but they're definitely better than the very basic controllers that I've seen before. This is a 64K model. I didn't see any additional RAM or anything on it. I got this for I think around $100 with the two controllers and the printer interface card. Didn't have a printer at the time to interface it with, so I haven't tested that. Since then, I've got 3 different dot matrix printers that I think all use the Centronics interface, so we'll test it out eventually. I have 2 Oki Data down in my basement, and I've also got a Commodore branded dot matrix printer, and we'll play with those eventually when I get back to working with this color computer. So there you can see it's the Tandy branded controllers, good shape. Didn't see anything wrong with those. I'm smelling the smoke smell on them. Has a really nice keyboard feel. Spacebar feels pretty good. So can't really tell any problems. The bottom obviously is not nearly as color changed as the top. All the feet are there in good shape. There are 5 screws that need to be undone. We're going to get ready to take those out. And we'll speed through this here in a second. You can see that the labels are all in good shape. The model label and the RadioShack labeling badge, all in good shape. Really a nice computer. And you might notice that my desk setup is a little bit different in this video. This was a year ago. I have since changed it a little bit, but still in my living room desk area. Now, this is my first color computer that I've ever owned, so I'm not as familiar with it. I wasn't a big Tandy or RadioShack user back in the day. My first computer, if you don't count my Atari 2600 gaming console, was a Commodore 64 bread bin, so Tandy wasn't really, RadioShack wasn't really one that I used. Anecdotally, my stepfather used to be a RadioShack manager, and he used to sell the Tandy computers, so there is a connection there. Still trying to get the screws out. Alright, top cover is off, looks in good shape, nothing's broken. There you can see the power supply, the keyboard coming off, and connected via a ribbon cable, and then you can see there is a daughter board. I think it's a daughter board. It looks different. Taking a couple of pictures here. I'll have to find that picture and show it. The board looks really clean. Everything looks mounted appropriately. You can see the bodge wires for the, yeah, everything looks good. There's a close-up of that daughter board, and we'll look at that at a later date. Didn't see any leaky caps. There aren't that many caps in there like most of these 8-bits. These 8-bit all-in-one type units. Really a pleasure to type on these things. Has a more standardized keyboard than some of the other 8-bits that I've seen out there. We're going to put everything back together. This was really just a general unboxing introduction. This was the night that I received the unit via eBay. It was packed really well, so there was nothing that came damaged or missing. The seller was a really good seller. So I think the only 8-bit computer that I've actually purchased off of eBay. All my other 8-bits that I've received have been off Facebook Marketplace. I've had a lot better success with that than eBay. And since then, in the past year, prices on eBay have just skyrocketed when it comes to some of these 8-bit and 16-bit systems out there. So I'm really leaning heavily on Facebook Marketplace. Since this computer, there was a big gap of time, and then I purchased a Commodore 64 bread bin with a 1541 drive off of Facebook Marketplace for a really good deal. I've purchased a C64 retro computer maxi just as a fun thing to have, and it looks like I screwed up the placement of this cable. It's pinched, so we're going to loosen it back up and readjust that wire, get it back in its right position so that it's not pinched. Now the RF cable is not disconnected here, so you can still plug in an RF cable, and it did come with an RCA RF cable, but I don't have an RF converter set up anywhere. I do have a TI-99 that came with a brand new, basically unused, new stock TI-99 beige that came with an RF modulator still in its wrappings that I might play with at some point, but I don't really have a TV with a connector. I guess you could do the coax, and we'll play with that at some point. We'll look at RF modulation, but mostly I've been working with composite cables and whatnot. All in all, this was a really good purchase. I feel like I've also since purchased a RadioShack. There's the printer controller. I think this is the first of 3 different printer interface cards. Not a very good focus there, sorry. This is my old camera, which is a Canon Rebel TI-6, I think. I've since upgraded a little bit. There's the RCA cable that came with it for the RF modulation. And that's it, folks. So that's just a quick look at the Tandy, or at the RadioShack Color Computer 2. We will do a deeper dive at a later date. We're also going to be exploring some of those other systems. I've got more for you to look at. So be sure to hit the like if you like this video, hit the subscribe button, and leave any comments down below. And we'll talk to you later. Thanks for coming to Pixel and RAM. I'm David. See you later.